this won't take real long. I'm always a little bit apprehensive about coming into the class doing this because I've never taught it. And so I don't know what you're supposed to do in conflict management. All I can do is tell you what my experience has been. And of course, if anything I say contradicts what you, excuse Ms. Campanetti, are telling you, go with them. Because they're the professionals in it. But it's always kind of fun to come through this class because it's nice to see familiar faces. And much as I've made remarks about you, you're still pretty nice people. But I opened up this little discussion with what I think is the hardest part for a lot of people. Whenever you're dealing with, you know, I've looked at this from the standpoint of a manager having two or more people who are in conflict with one another. And he or she has to work through that, help them work through that. And I think the hardest thing is to stay calm. Frankly, it's relatively easy for me to stay calm. That's just my nature. But for some of us, it's not our nature. Our nature is to get upset or to tend toward losing our temper or being aggravated. And all three of those responses only make the problem more difficult. So, in my experience, the calmer you can stay in a complex situation, the better off you're going to be. Because if you become emotional, you can't hear. And when I say you can't hear, you may hear the words, but you don't necessarily hear the nuances. And sometimes you don't take time to find out what you need to find out before you take action. So I ran across something Thomas Jefferson said the other day. This is not exact. He didn't say it the other day. I ran across it the other day. He said that if something really makes you angry, count to 12 before you react. He said if it really made you angry, count to 25. In other words, what he's saying is give yourself time to settle down before you react. Because, like I say, not all of us can stay calm or will not be calm in the initial moments. So give yourself some time. The world won't, in most cases where you deal with conflict, the world won't blow up with the time it takes you to count to 25. So that gives you time to settle down, regardless of what else is going on. And then you can get a better handle on it. I've had more experience with conflict here since I began teaching here than I ever had when I was a manager out in the real world, which is kind of remarkable when you think about it. And most of those conflicts have occurred in a course called small business management, which all of you will take. The format of that course has changed, so I assume we'll have less conflict than we used to. But the situation in small business management is we have, historically, we've had three different majors: business, marketing, and accounting. And we no longer have marketing now. So. But each field of endeavor attracts different personalities. Accountants are accountants, managers are managers, and marketers are crazy. And so if you combine those on a team, put all three majors on a team, which we did, it's really interesting sometimes. They have a really hard time understanding one another or appreciating one another, as the case may be. And so that's a team talk course that I was designated as the person to settle the argument. And part of the reason I don't have any hair. For instance, I remember one day that in class, there was two people on a team. One was an accountant. He stood about 6'4", 5", probably weighed 250 pounds. And there was one in the class who was mad at him. She stood about 5'5", probably weighed 100 pounds. She was sort of strangling. And she would have had to reach up like this a long way to get hold of it. But she was going to strangle him. She was dead serious. I didn't know whether he'd been through the end of class or not. So you run into little things like that make it kind of fun. And,
what was she going to strangle him over?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I'm not sure, since he was an accountant, I'm not sure I understood what he was talking about. But whatever it was, she was a marketing major, as a matter of fact, but I have no idea what the argument was about, but he was a dead man, and big as he was. He seemed kind of bewildered by the whole thing, but you women do that to us, so he was confused. But there again, I was so dumbfounded, I guess it was easy for me to stay quiet because I'd never seen anything done quite like that before. But after I heard each side of the story, it really wasn't a very important conflict. I do remember that much. It wasn't a big issue. But and I think it was primarily because they just didn't understand what they didn't know how to communicate. But another situation I ran into where I think staying calm makes a big difference is same course, I'm not sure it was the same year. We had a team, all women, and they were not speaking to each other. And I wasn't aware of this until it was called to my attention by one of my colleagues. And so they said that's something we need to work on. So I arranged a meeting with the team in my office. And so they're all there, the 6 of them were right across the room. And they came in the office pretty much yelling at each other. And we got them all in there and sat there and watched them for a few minutes. And then I talked to them, got them to shut up, and which is a good word sometimes. And I'll give you another instance of that in a minute. But by then I figured out who the 2 leaders were. One on the side of it. They were about as far apart from each other as they could get. And so I turned to the leader on this side. I remember I asked her to explain to me what the problem was. And she started explaining, this one over here started explaining what she was explaining. And I had to get her, I said, just be quiet a minute. Now let's go talk. Then I turned to the other one and asked her side. And the critical thing here is that you listen. You listen carefully, not just to what they're saying, but as I said earlier, the nuances. What are the implications of what they're saying? What's the information that's not being conveyed literally in the question, but is behind what they're saying? You need to hear that. But you can't hear it if you're upset yourself. Now, as a general rule, we human beings are not good listeners. We're not accustomed to using our ears the way a lot of other animals are. We can't listen because we're too busy thinking about what we're going to say next. I say something, you respond to it. While you're responding, I'm thinking about what I want to say next. So I don't really hear you. Too often that's the case. So you have to sit there and be quiet and listen to what the person says. Now you may think what the person is saying absolutely ridiculous. But to them, it's not, because they haven't thought about it. So you have to find out what it is they really say. And do you think about, in this particular case, I'll listen to the first one, and then I'll listen to the second one and listen to what she was really saying in response to the first. And then I could come back and ask a question. And I began to question both of them. And it reached the point where they were conferring with their followers. And they're coming back with answers. And as we went through that process, I listened to what they had to say. I asked questions which were relevant, at least I thought they were. And as they listened to themselves answering those questions, we began to see the problem resolve itself, because each of them gained an understanding of what the other person's position was, or a better understanding of that. And by the time they left the room, the argument was over, and they were pretty confused. And it was more a matter of letting them talk out what was bothering them, and comparing what they were upset about with what the other person said was upset about, so that at the end, they had a better understanding of one another's position, and they were able to deal with it from there. But I think personally, in my experience over both my career period and since I quit working at a real job, came here, but my experience has been that works most of the time. Just listening and giving everybody a chance to express themselves. A lot of times it's just a matter of getting to express myself. And I've done, as long as everybody knows what I think, then I'm okay.